2. All right. Ivan, how's our pizza supply over there? How's the pizza looking? Wait, there's some left? Not okay, cool. I was gonna have to go home with like 5 pies or something. Sweet. All right, everyone that's here. Thanks for showing up. This is PDX SAS. Trying to remember the name of this meetup group that we're doing. And it is June, so obviously everyone has the summer distractions. So for everyone that is here, braving the monsoons and traffic, what is up with that? I appreciate you coming. So we have a bit of a special week as we have a additional sponsor this week and some special guests. But before I get to that, let's go through a couple things. We are PDXS. You can follow us at PDXS on Twitter. Our G Plus group is at bit.ly/PDXS. We meet the second Thursday of every month, right here, right now, as you can probably see. And there we go. Our special sponsors this week are the guys out at ThinkShout. They are a local web development shop, primarily working with Drupal. Is that correct? Okay. I don't know if that was a good pigeonhole to put you in. Doing a lot of work for nonprofits, and they're going to be sharing with us about UX discovery and static site generators, if I'm not mistaken. So appreciate them sponsoring the pizza. Let's come around for the pizza. Love the pizza. All right, so a couple other quick things. Want to continue to thank Treehouse for the continued support. We've got all of our stickers up here, as well as some Treehouse stickers. If you haven't gotten some already, make sure you grab some of those before you head out. If you aren't familiar with Treehouse, they are a monthly or a online learning resource for all things web, whether it's Ruby, whether it's Python. I know they're doing Android and iOS development, so all awesome learning resource on the web. And they've given us a 1-month free trial, this trhou.sc/pdxs14. Check it out, give it a shot. I've used it a few times. It's a great resource. They're really a bunch of fun guys, really entertaining videos to watch. They're also local here in Portland now. So we appreciate them supporting us and doing what we do. One quick thing, I'm continuing to do SaaS Bites, which is a weekly podcast about SaaS and front end and whatnot. I think I'm going to be moving it to Tuesdays because Thursdays just gotten busy because obviously things like this happen on Thursdays. So every Tuesday, 12 p.m., probably this Tuesday, if not this Tuesday, the one after. But you can follow that at SaaS Bites or watch it youtube.com/SaaS Bites for current shows and past shows. I think I'm up to show 40 now. The cool thing, though, is Eric Schmidt over at what's the company? The parent company. Anyway, CSS Summit, they do CSS DevConf. Did somebody yell it out? Is it Environments for Humans? Okay. Environments for Humans. He contacted me and then asked me if I wanted to give away a ticket to CSS Summit. And I said, yes, I would. So if you follow SaaS Bites up there, I'm going to be tweeting out probably me like a retweet kind of thing, and I'll go through and select one of those randomly, and you'll get a ticket for CSS Summit, which is a CSS and SaaS. So they even say CSS and SaaS now. Online summit coming up July 15th, 16th, and 17th. So you can stay in your PJs. You can sit in front of your computer. It's at 9 a.m. Central, which is, what, 7 a.m. here? Yeah. So kind of early, but if you're in your PJs, you got coffee, you're good to go. It's a $400 value, so something to check out. I'm pretty excited to be able to give that away. It's a pretty cool thing. I think they're actually recording it here. Is that right? They're actually... Yep. Ah. Yep, so people are involved in Refresh. Yes. Okay. So follow Refresh PDX on Twitter if you want more information about that. They've got a viewing room here in Portland that you can go to. So today's speakers, I want to introduce Brett Heckman, user experience lead. I almost said lead user experience. Have you kind of waffled on that? No. Okay. At ThinkShout, and Eric Paxton, front end engineer. They are going to be talking about static site generators and UX discovery using those static site generators. And I want to just turn it over to them and let them go for it. So can you give, Brett's going to start. Give him a round of applause. And let me check your mic level.
Is it working? I think I just lost everything. Okay. Get set up here. Back up here. So my portion of the talk is definitely going to be a lot more based on Jekyll, how we use it, kind of the basics of getting up and running. I'm hoping not everyone in the room has already played around with Jekyll too much. But Jekyll is a Ruby-based static site generator. We started to use it at ThinkShout to do our wireframe development about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And it's proven to really improve our workflow in a lot of ways. There's also some pain points that we've come across that I'll cover if there's time for that. It's relatively easy once you have the necessary dependencies set up to install a new instance on your local machine, a new Jekyll instance. The command really is just navigating to the directory where you want that new Jekyll instance to live and running Jekyll new, whatever you want your new site name to live. And the directory structure that it'll provide you is what you see there below. And it's pretty bare bones. That config.yaml file is where you can set up some sort of global variables that you can use throughout the site. I'll show some examples of that. You get a layouts directory. This is one thing that has been really great for us in our prototyping phase of work is that, you know, in the sorts of websites that we build, there's usually a handful of different, high-level page template types, and layouts allows us to manage those different types pretty easily. Posts kind of speaks for itself. It's kind of like the Jekyll version of a database. So that's where all of your markdown-based text files will live. No need to talk about CSS, and it just provides you with an index file to start playing around. So when we first started to do our wireframes in code, we weren't really using any framework at all. And at that point, it was we were a one-man team in terms of front end and user experience, and that quickly became a rat's nest for me as prototypes for projects increased in scope, and I ended up with 35 or 40 different static HTML files and needed to make a change. Just find and replace. Even find and replace proved to be a little bit of a pain. So, so one of the great benefits of Jekyll is just the support for includes. With if you search static site generators on GitHub or Google, you're going to find no shortage of options. And most of them will provide some sort of include functionality. But basically, what that means, what that looks like is if you add a new includes directory into your new Jekyll instance, you can use a snippet like I have up above in one of your page layouts, and that will go out and fetch that. You can think of it as a partial. But as someone that works very closely with content strategist and someone who really wants to be able to design from the pieces and parts out, the thing that I really loved about Jekyll is how it allowed me to start working with structured content and defining that structured content very early in a prototyping process. Out of the box, Jekyll provides, and this is Jekyll version 1. Jekyll version 2 was just recently released, and there's some updates to this. They've introduced the notion of collections, but in terms of the structured content that it allows for out of the box, it gives you the notion of posts, which we saw that directory, and pages. So for posts, Jekyll it requires a particular file name format with that timestamp ahead of it. For pages, for our purposes, we generally just use markdown files. The timestamps aren't really necessary. But the way that what Jekyll provides and what allows us to really start to play with structured content in our wireframes is front matter. And so at the top of every post or the top of every page, and I'll get into an example, the very first thing in those files, you'll see a YAML format of variables. And then we can call to those variables in our page templates and layouts and includes. So if I can do this relatively smoothly. So here's a really simple example. Can everybody see that? Bigger? I'm just in the wrong window. One more? So you see that we're setting up just a few variables. This is telling this particular post which layout to go to which layout that we want this content to be displayed in. Published is a way of setting something to a draft state by setting that to false. Featured, title. The details of what we're setting up here in terms of this custom front matter isn't really important, but the point is that by setting up these variables, we're able to inject those into our page templates in a way that really allows us to start to explore that structured data. And so to bring that full circle, you'll see that this is sort of another example of a portfolio piece and the way that we structured that front matter on ThinkShout's recent redesigned website. So you can set up collections that you can loop through, as you'll see down here, and I'll show you how that works in terms of looping through that. But the nice thing is for us, content modeling is something that Drupal's very good at, and it's nice to be able to sort of start exploring what those field level information might be on any given piece of content or content type. If we look at what an actual project layout looks like, you can see that we're using Jekyll uses liquid templating language, and we're just injecting those values into these page layouts. Liquid provides ways to loop and conditional statements. So here we're looking for whether or not a client was provided in this particular project before outputting the markup. So we don't end up with empty divs and paragraph tags. In terms of looping through collections of YAML front matter, you can see that we're just looping through that array of page components that we saw down here. So we just have discovery, Salesforce integration, mapping. Back over to Keynote. The other thing that that we use a lot in our wireframing process with Jekyll is the notion of data files, and to get that going is also pretty straightforward. You just add a new data file directory, and then getting back over, might just stop switching. You can place as many YAML files in as you'd like. So, you know, essentially this is no different. We could have treated work this way as well, the portfolio this way as well, but it's a way of setting up a collection that we can then loop through on our team page, just looking for, you know, who is this person first name, person last name, spitting out the bits of that particular person that we want on that template file. Already covered this. Something that we've just really begun exploring is that there's a grunt module called SASDown, and it allows you to put markup into markdown formatted text into your SAS files or less files or CSS files, and what it allows you to do is sort of indicate what the desired markup that you're looking for is and what that styling, that chunk of styling looks like in the end. And so for an example, it's pretty easy to use. You would, navigating back over, this should mirror. I'm going to mirror. I'm struggling too much. So, you know, to get it going on your machine, if you have the dependencies going, you would want, and you're using, you know, you're using Node Package Manager and Grunt, is adding that as a dependency, and then inside of your Grunt file, you can define this new task. And basically, you're in this task, you're telling it where you want it to go looking for your source files, and what the destination that you want it to write to is. And for an example of the sort of content that it allows you to place inside of your SAS files, you can see that you can give it a title, you can give it a comment, and you can show the sort of markup that you're looking for, or maybe in the Drupal world hoping for. Here's another example of that. And then it's as simple as running the task that you've defined in your grunt file. Now this is going to throw some errors because not every file in my components directory has comments, and the task isn't necessarily happy about that. But that generates this page, or this set of pages for us that starts to define We can see the markup that we defined. We can see that chunk of Sass styling that we had defined. This broke for me earlier today, but this would be a preview of what that should actually look like. So when it's not broken, it's been really fun to play with, and I think it'll be really valuable in terms of transitioning over to theming. The other thing that I wanted to point out that's been a lot of fun that we've been playing with recently is that, and a good way of you maybe getting started if you have any interest in playing with Jekyll is there's a really great Yeoman or Yeoman, I don't really know how to pronounce it correctly, generator out there for it that sort of gives you a lot of grunt tasks, things set up for free. So for example, here, if we wanted to, once you have all the dependencies set up and you're ready to go and you've installed that particular generator, it's really just as easy as creating a directory where you want that new file to live, and then it walks you through the process of setting up that new instance of Jekyll with all the goodness in there. So, if you have things set up in your Git config, and depending on how you do that, it'll know certain things about you to set up deployment to GitHub pages, which is another reason why we went with Jekyll of all the options of static site generators that we explored, is that it's been really valuable for us to sort of have our wiki on GitHub, have our wireframes on the GitHub pages branch, and eventually have all the development going on. It's just really nice to keep everything consolidated in one place. So you can go through and set up your settings. You can give it, you can define what templates. There's the notion of defining templates. Walks you through. You can use this grunt task that this particular generator provides that allows for committing this. It automates the task of committing and deploying this code to your GitHub pages branch. Oh, sure. So you kind of go through all the settings. At this point, it's setting up a lot of the variables that you're going to find in the config.yaml file. And then it goes out and it's basically running a bundle install. It's using Node Package Manager to grab dependencies. It's leveraging Bower to make sure that you have frameworks that you need. It kind of takes care of everything for you. And it's pretty close here to being done. And then when you go into PDX SAS, it has a grunt task for grunt serve available to you. And now we have a new instance of Jekyll up and running that we can play with. So I think I kind of just blew through my slides. Any questions or comments? Or anybody use Jekyll? And anybody use Jekyll in this way for prototyping, or is it more of, a lot of people use it for a really lean way of blogging? Or
I use Octopress for blocking.
Okay.
Which is a wrapper on Jekyll.
Okay.
And of course, anybody that builds GitHub pages.
Right.
I have been looking at Jekyll mostly because it's part of GitHub Pages, which for easy publishing it's great. We've been using Jade a lot for sort of HTML prototyping. You have a lot of similar capabilities. It's been very useful and very flexible, at least for me. But yeah, it's a great run through. Thank you.
How much of this are you able to reuse going forward? I'm really getting into this idea of prototypes with a fair amount of the reusable code being able to go down the pipeline.
Well, so what I'm like, my personal little mission right now, that's not really endorsed in a way like company-wide, but I'm customizing that generator right now. So it's a little bit of a learning curve for me. I'm introducing a new template, which is the ThinkShout template. And I'm introducing what I want to do is introduce some new dependencies in there. So some ThinkShout repos where one might be a pattern library, for instance. And so we all, contribute common patterns that we're using in our wireframing process, and they're kind of just that markup is just stubbed out in a way that we don't have to recreate it every time, because there's really common widgets that come up on most every site. So that's one of the pain points, is that I do feel myself doing a lot of the same things over and over again, but it's solvable.
Have you looked into Pattern Lab?
I have, because I read your blog post. And so Pattern Lab allows you, in terms of the structured content that I talked about loving so much, it allows you to define that in a JSON format that you can then suck into.
Yeah, when it comes to content, you just have a little JSON file, and it lets you loop through it. But I mean, it's just all about the patterns. And looking into Jekyll early on, it was really good to get a site and a blog and like content up easily. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So how often you change your site, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it came time to like build patterns and components and little pieces,
right,
it was kind of, I really wanted to include like my little blocky widget.
Right.
And it was kind of more of a pain in the ass in Jekyll, for me at least.
Yeah, I think you could get there, because you could have includes that just sort of endlessly cascade.
Right.
But it would certainly take quite a bit of work. It's been such a rocky road to sort of get where we are with Jekyll that I'm not. So I read your blog post, and I'll admit, like, I spent a good half portion of that day picking around in there, and it makes a lot of sense. And it would be very difficult, for me to write right now to generate any sort of, sort of deliverables or style guides that get that down to that atom level.
Down to that
level. In this way. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about Pattern Lab.
I love Jekyll for like for like the content side. It's amazing.
Any other questions?
Are you going to talk about how this empowers like UX discovery?
Yeah. So what it does allow us to do, even though I find myself doing a lot of recreating a lot of the same markup, it's quick, and I can make changes pretty quickly now that I'm more confident in it. And the ways that it's kind of changed is that we are doing a lot more in testing, like actual testing of the wireframes that we're producing, because we can share them online very easily. And it just feels good as someone that works in user experience to be able to test my assumptions. I don't have much in terms of a presentation that really speaks to that, but the whole idea of being able to make changes week after week very quickly and to get that out to small batches of user testing has user testers has been really, really great.
All right, let's give Brett a hand. And while we do the switch, Eric, you're coming up next, right? Well, I know they got to switch out mics. It's muted, right? Perfect. Switch our computers. So while we do that, one thing we often like to do here is give opportunities for companies that are being represented that have job openings to talk about those job openings and tell people that they are looking and hiring. So is there anyone that wants to shout out about any openings? Bloom. Should have just cut the microphone.
This is really easy. I have to hire 10 people in 30 days. Are you looking for any kind of a front end or PHP position? We're phase 2 technology. We got a lot of really exciting things coming up, and we're growing really, really fast. So we're looking for folks. My name's Chris Bloom, phase 2 technology.
I can attest he sucked me in too. So actually, how many phase 2 guys do we have here? 1, 2, 3. Just 3 this time? Oh, wow, we normally have like 7. It's kind of like the phase 2 hangout. It's kind of funny. Are you guys hiring? I saw you're hiring on your page, right? You want to say what you're hiring for?
Well, I know that we're looking for. I think the position is UX specialist. So we're looking for someone else to work closely with Eric and I on the front end and discovery process.
So UX specialist. Anyone else?
We here at Puppet Labs appear to be hiring for a front-end engineer for Puppet Enterprise. So come talk to me or Alex if you're interested.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's like a very JavaScript front-end position. I think I actually applied for it. I was like, a little too much JavaScript for me. Like a lot of Angular, Ember, Backbone-y kind of stuff. So if that's your alley, that's certainly something to check out. Alan, I know more about it than you do. It's fine. All right. Anyone else have anything?
Lullabot is hiring a front-end developer and a web designer, Drupal developer, and an account manager. Lullabot is a distributed company, and you can work from your house.
So is phase 2, kind of. If Bloom lets you work from home. So lots of awesome opportunities. So if you're interested, check those out. Talk to these people afterwards. Drink some beer. Get them a beer. That usually helps warm them up too. So Eric, are you ready to go?
I am. Is this mic hot?
It is good. Excellent.
I feel like I need a mic like this in the shower. This would be, if it was waterproof, I would sing in the shower with this mic. But anyway, this is me. I'm going to talk about kind of sort of the same thing Brett talked about, but from the perspective of Middleman, which is a similar tool to Jekyll, but it's Ruby-based. Well, I guess Jekyll's Ruby-based too, but if you've ever done any front-end Rails, anybody ever heard anybody done front-end Rails before here? Okay, so, well, I spent quite a bit of time, like 9 or 10 months doing some front-end Rails stuff. And so Middleman was a tool that allowed me to use that same skill set, but in a different way. So it was really familiar. So I come from a similar background of Brett, where I had the issue of I was doing a lot of application prototyping, and I was creating like all of these like long files, and I had like 20 files, and I'm going through changing items, a single item in every single file, you know, after a meeting, and it's tedious. And the lazy developer in me wanted something to stop that. So that was early on when I was rather foolish and didn't know about tools that existed. And so a lot of these things do come about because people are just frustrated and they need something to do their job efficiently. So, I mean, just some reasons that they work for me. Just staying dry, don't repeat yourself. So I like the notion of just having one place to edit that thing. Easy to update. This is me. I want to be in the hammock after I make my updates. Uh, and something easy to distribute. So that's like an issue. Like if you're using a tool, maybe the tool does something its own way, and you got to package up that tool and then try to get somebody else to run it. Well, with the static site generators, you can kind of use, just it'll distribute a basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So when you're ready to go, you just serve up that cold brew of your code and just package it up and give it to somebody else. So there's no shortage of these tools, as Brett mentioned. I have a friend who introduced me to this site called Static Site Generators. So you'll see here, there's 278 of them just listed here. Pick your poison. There's, all licensed differently, some of them JavaScript. There's even one here for Bash. I have no idea where to get started with that. Ruby, Perl, Python, PHP. There's a ton of them. So whatever you like, whatever your flavor is, you probably could go here and find something that to your liking. Where am I going? I got my notes so I can actually talk to you guys about something. So yeah, that's my story, just kind of tired and wanting to do my job more efficiently. So where I'm gonna get started here is just kind of here's Middleman. So Middleman is at middlemanapp.com. So you go here and that'll give you the site and just how to get started. It does have a requirement of having a Ruby install. Whether you use RBIM or RBM to get set up, and then you can just gem install Middleman, and that'll install the gem so you can kind of get the CLI and get going with it. It was created by this dude. I got to give credit where credit's due. He made a great tool. Thomas Reynolds, that's his handle on Twitter. So it's a really great tool. But just to quick get up and running, this is what you have to do to get up and running really quickly. And I'll show you that. So I'll go to my terminal here. Let me zoom in there a little bit more. Can everybody see that? So it's just, and then whatever my project name is, and I'll call it here. And so you'll see it creates my app there, and I'll show you the directory structure there. I've actually got a project created already, but let me go into this one. And so you'll see, oops, that's not the directory I wanted to go in. Here. So what you get this source, you get your config.rb in the root of your library, you get a gem file. So Middleman works also with different Ruby gems. The only problem is some of those gems are looking for Rails to be installed, and so some of them won't work right. So when you actually put a gem in here, sometimes you might want to put require false after the gem statement. So that it's not looking for Rails and you won't be throwing errors all over the place. In your source directory, you're going to see just like, this layout should be familiar. Your images, JavaScripts, your layout directory, so you could, where am I going here? Put your templates here. You'll see there's an ERB file. That's what Rails uses as a standard templating language, is ERB. And I'll show you what that looks like. So here you have this little bracket %= that's ERB. It supports Sass right out of the box. So you could just put .scss file in here or .sass file in here, and it'll work right away. You don't have to install anything. It also supports, I like writing HAML, so it supports writing HAML right out of the gate. You don't have to do anything extra with that either. But it does support a lot of different templating languages. So if you use Jade or Slim or something like that, you can use it here as well. So there is this notion of templates as well with middleman. So let me put this here. The templates in middleman, there's community generated templates that have different setups. Some of them are kind of weird though, because you have to do like some extra configuration depending on how they set it up. So if we look at, let me zoom here. Skip here. So you have like this directory of project templates. And you'll see here, there's one with HTML5 boilerplate, comes with Sass, Compass, Suzy, and then Chubbs. That's one of my favorite ones. Oops, where we go? So yeah, you can install these different templates. What middleman is looking for, they're looking for the templates in a certain directory. So that's where your directory is located. So in your, whatever your home directory is, that's where it's going to look for in the .middleman directory. That's a directory, not a file. So let's say I wanted to start a project with a template. I would just have to take middleman, init, and then whatever my project name. And then give it a template flag, and then give it the name of that template. So let's just say, for instance, I already have this, which one do I have installed? I think I have this Amicus installed. And so you can clone this down to your own middleman directory and install it from there. Or if somebody has a template, you can just like clone it to your machine and just start working from that directory and use it from there. You don't have to use it as a template. But let's see if I have that installed. I have it installed. It's a miracle. So now you'll see as a difference from, let's see here. So you'll see here, this person's actually included a 404 for you. They got a config.ru. They may have different things in their gem file. So you see they included SUSE here. And then we got your HTML5 boilerplate. And you'll see they have Sass here. It's just located right there in the directory. So you can do all your Sass imports here, includes, and things like that. So what I want to show you next, it also has the notion of, now once we get this going, we've got a file or we've got a project set up. What you want to do is run middleman server. Depending on who set up or how they configured the project, you might want to run, because it runs in context of what's bundler is the thing that help serve up the application context. So if I run middleman server here, you'll see there I get some warnings because I have like some gem conflicts where I have a couple different versions of gems installed. And you'll see middleman loads by default at this 4567. And I got an error here because there's no method for Bill Murray. So I don't know where that's coming from, but must be something I did. So I'm going to kill that. Also, you can run this on, it has, if you run middleman help, you'll get a list of all the tasks that you can do with middleman. So you have your build, you have a console, which will run in the context of your site there. You also have you'll see the init and then whatever options you can do. You can also serve on a different port. So if you wanted to, you wanted to run 2 middleman instances, you could serve and pass the port flag and run on 5, 6, 7, 8 if you wanted to. So, and now that'll serve my app on 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to run, just to show you some of the helpful things that middleman does, I'm going to go ahead and run a project that I already have set up. So this is the one I use a template for. And in this, you'll see I'm going to run bundle exec middleman server, just so I don't have any like conflicts, because the way the person set up this template is kind of conflicting with my own environment. So I need to make sure bundler is running in the context of this application and not my global setup here. So one thing is neat here, you get live reload by default. So when you're developing your site, as you make changes here, it reloads by default. There's nothing that you have to configure to do that. So if I refresh, you'll see here, my app loads here. And where do I have that here? So you'll see here you have that notion of front matter. Same thing Brett was mentioning here, you can use here. This is actually different than the initial template I showed you. It's the same code, but this is written in HAML, where you have your welcome div and h1, and then the equal is just an output. And so now I can call where Jekyll has the page property, where they'll say page dot title in the context is page. Middleman has the current page thing. So I call page, and you have to call data because it's looking for this data. You can't just call current page dot title or you'll get an error. So that's what's generating that title. So if I say PDXSAS is watching, let's do, whoops. Let's do that one. And so now that should have updated. Maybe my live reload isn't loading. But now you'll see I have that changed just like that. So NSA is always watching you. Also, you have the notion of just going through this template here. You'll see I have a couple different things. Like I've looped through this family's data. I love Game of Thrones, by the way. Hope you guys are watching it. You have this families here. And here, same loop. It's a Ruby loop, though. So if you've ever done any Ruby, this is what a loop looks like. Give me each one of these, and this variable f, just iterate and pass it to that. And then that outputs each of those family names here. So there's also partials. So this is where it gets great. So you can put partials in here just like you could do in a front-end Rails application. So if I went to, I have a directory set up here called partials, and you'll see here I have this hello footer here. That's what's generating that hello footer down there. So something else that I like here is, so if let's just say it comes with this nifty little lorem generator here. So if I'll need some, like, actually it didn't run because I missed my output sign. There you go. So we get like these randomly generated emails here that you can kind of use throughout your application. So it's really friendly in that way. You can also write your own helpers. So if you take a look here, your config RB file is the setup of how this is going to run. So let's just get down here. You'll see here, this is my Bill Murray method here that wouldn't run earlier. Basically, it just returns a random movie from this list. So I can call that, let's just say you had like some blog posts you wanted to generate random titles for. I mean, just for example, instead of having to fill those in every time, you could maybe do some kind of method like this helper. Once again, it's Ruby if you're not too opposed to Ruby. Let me go back to my index. So just here, I can output, we'll do nh2 and call that method. Oops. And so now you'll see every time here, it's just generating a random title here for me. So no, it's fun stuff like that that it allows you to kind of enjoy the prototyping. So lastly, what I'll do here is let you look at, there's an option for pretty URLs. So go back to the top of here. And so any of their options, you can just use this activate, if I can spell activate. Maybe it's activate directory indexes. So let me comment that out first. I have a file called about here in my directory. So you'll see that here, and it doesn't have anything but a heading in it. So if I hit about.html, it's not found. That wasn't expected, but we'll see what happens there. I may have to restart. So about's not found. Neither is that. I may need to restart the server. So let's restart that and see what happens. Restart about.html. All right, there's my about page. So now what I want to do is go ahead, let the file is working in. No, it's not. So now I'm going to go ahead and uncomment this. And about's not found now because I'm using, oh, I need to restart the server again. I should have learned that lesson the first time I did that, shouldn't I? Where's my error? You know what? Activate is not the active is not the method, it's activate. You guys should have told me that. There you go. Now I'm getting some help. All right, so now you see I got my pretty URL there. I can just go to about and not just about.html. So lastly, what I'll say here is once you get ready to distribute this, the great thing is here, now I can just run middleman build, and that threw an error too, but that's okay, we're gonna keep it moving. So I have another one here, we'll run middleman build. There was errors. Let's do this one I just created then. There you go. So we're not building anything right now because I don't have time to fix these errors. But what the build does is basically create a build directory so that you have like all of your HTML, CSS, JavaScript that you can just distribute. So anyway, that's Middleman. I hope you enjoy that and go out and try it and maybe, or go to static site generators and find something that you like. Any questions or comments? I like Haml. I like anything where I don't have to write semicolon, or I used to not like white space. I used to like hate having to deal with white space delimited stuff, but yeah, closing tags. I mean, you get away with like you can turn this much HTML to this much HTML just by not having to write all of those closing tags. So yeah.
Any other questions? Questions about tonight? Questions about the next lotto numbers? No? Okay, we're good. Eric. Awesome.
All right. Thank you, guys.
So I want to thank Eric and Brett and all the guys over at ThinkShout for sponsoring tonight and for coming out and talking. It's been a great evening to learn a little bit more about static site generators. Honestly, I had no idea Jekyll could do all that. My site currently runs in Jekyll, and I was like, you can do that? That's pretty sweet. Apparently, I've got some work to do when I go home. So next month, we're toying with the idea. It's summer. People are having fun out enjoying the sunshine and all that. We have a couple topics that are possible for next month, but we could also maybe just do a social. So we weren't 100% sure if maybe you want to give me feedback or just yell or scream now. Just trying to decide what we want to do for next month if people are busy and just want to do something chill or not. So we'll kind of mull over that for the next few days if you want to tweet back at me sometime with your feedback. Otherwise, we've got cool stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about using, what was it again? It was Vagrant and Puppet for setting up your local environment. And then I was going to talk about front-end visual diffing tools like let's see, like Wraith.js and Diffuse and a few of those other ones. So, and then maybe toss on maybe a third one. So we certainly have some topics we could do next month. If maybe a third person wants to jump in on that, otherwise we might do social, just do pizza, do a hack night, do something like that. We got some options. So keep an eye on Twitter. We'll certainly post that out there, and as well as if you're on our meetup.com page, you'll get that notification as well. So is there any pizza left, or do we polish it off? Anyone know the pizza status? This is important. No? Okay. If there is, please feel free to eat it or take it home. Otherwise, the dogs can eat all of it, and I don't think Marlene's going to like that. And yeah, keep an eye on the site on Twitter and meetup.com, and we'll post about next month's meeting. And thanks for coming. See you. And drink more beer.